BYDFi is a crypto exchange on desktop and mobile where you can spot trade, futures trade, use leverage tokens and copy the trades of top trade. There's hundreds of crypto available on their spot exchange, as well as a free test account so you can practice futures trading without getting wrecked. BYDFi. Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at a brief overview of the altcoin market. That's right, you might think I'm crazy for doing this with my general projection of a bit more further downside across the board, generally speaking, for all markets. But if you're not ahead of the game, you're going to lose the game, really. So you've got to think about these things before they happen. So I'm not saying that altcoins are going to catapult up to new highs next week, although there is a possibility of that, but I'm pretty skeptical. We generally look at Bitcoin, as the indicator of the overall market. We always look at Bitcoin every morning, really, and sometimes we even do more boring stuff than that, like Dixie and stocks, because we've got to check the entire trading environment before we participate in the market. So, but we're going to look at altcoins this time around because, we were lucky, I'd say. There's an element of skill, but we were lucky as well that we, I suppose, entered into altcoins around October last year and started to scale out around December, January, and then from then on we were just making little scalpy trades. So we did quite well, a few hundred X in my dreams, a few 100% here and there on altcoins. Generally, it's been a Bitcoin-driven market since the lows, really, since the lows were hit. But I was making the case, it might have been on one of my videos. I get confused sometimes whether I talk about it on the Patreon live streams or on my morning videos or whatever. But I made the case to everybody at some point in the recent, over the last few days, that Bitcoin, as much as it is decent, and as much as Bitcoin has rallied, 300 and almost 400%, it's nothing compared to Meta, the old Facebook, Meta. That rallied almost 500%. And so really, when we stand back and think about that for a moment, we're like, hang on a minute, I thought Bitcoin was the future, man. I thought Bitcoin was where dreams were built. Yeah, it can be, definitely. It depends when you bought it. It's like what Michael Saylor says, not that I'm a big Michael Saylor fanboy, but one thing that he says, among many things, is that the best time to buy Bitcoin is always 5 years ago. So obviously I bought Bitcoin, 5 years ago. I bought it before then as well. So yeah, it's good for me because I still have the majority of those Bitcoins still. But 5 years ago, or 5 years in the future from now, hopefully Bitcoin will be significantly higher than it is today. But you compare it to Meta, and I'm not saying Meta is the best thing anyone's ever bought, but Meta did 500%, we'll call it, and Bitcoin did 400%. So you stand back from that and go, well, what's left in this market, really? Well, why am I bothering trading crypto with all the risks that go outside of the chart? So that could be anything from exchanges going down and hacks taking place or losing your keys and all these sort of stuff. Why am I bothering with that? If traditional markets, even mega cap tech stocks are outperforming Bitcoin, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? Well, you do have to ask yourself that question sometimes. You do. If you're trading, that's one thing. But if you're investing into Bitcoin, you just think you might have to have a little think about. Maybe there is a point where I just think, what am I actually doing? And so you're just going to have no choice, but you're going to have to start thinking about altcoins, because altcoins, there is still plenty of growth and plenty of room to move on those. And so really, we are going to think about altcoins this morning. We're going to think about altcoins as one giant big machine on the total 2 and the total 3 and the Bitcoin dominance. And we will refer to Bitcoin, and we will refer to traditional markets because we have to, because part of my trading strategy is to make sure that I'm trading in a market which has a decent environment for upside rather than downside. And at the moment, I still feel like downside is still most likely in the short term. But the good thing about downside is that it offers potential to buy lower in order to sell higher later on down the line. So we've got to make a plan. So we're going to talk about it now. So we're going to start with the total 2, basically. So total 2 is actually at a major resistance, and actually, this morning it's crept up above the 20 moving average, which if we close above here, it actually makes it look like we can go further. We can actually see a positive move on altcoins, generally speaking, with the total market cap moving up towards another 6% before it hits that general area of resistance on a horizontal time frame. But you could also make the case that we might be looking at a breakout at the moment if we take it down to a shorter term time frame. We've got 200 simple up here and 200 exponential down here. We also have a pump signal that is generated on the Ichimoku cloud as well. It's kind of fizzled out already, and if it did move, it would only take us up to these levels up here. And the good thing about this is that as much as we did have the pump signal, it kind of pumped. Now we're looking for a retest and another pump, which again is only going to take us up to another 6% based on what we see here on the 4-hourly. No bull div, just general momentum, which is okay. Nothing special, but again, we're talking breakouts above these levels. If we start to close above 1.115 trillion on the market cap here, we have every chance of actually continuing up on the altcoin market cap. Now, I don't know if anyone noticed here, but Ethereum's up 6.5% so far in the last 24 hours, which is not bad for the old lagger. Ethereum's been okay. It's not really the strongest thing you've ever seen in the world. Neither is the Binance app, to be honest with you. That's a shame. But we'll take it to trading view, to be honest with you. That's annoying. We are looking like we do want to attempt to break out here, because if you compare that to what we just looked at on the total 2, where we're sort of hovering on down here, and the total 2 is largely Ethereum driven. If we start to close above here and build a base above here, then Ethereum looks like it might want to break out. You can try drawing diagonals or whatever if that's your vibe. Sometimes it's relevant. I don't think this time it is particularly relevant. I think what we should be looking at this time is a breakout from a 200 simple moving average, which is a death cross retest on the 4-hourly. We had a sharp projection on the exponentials. This time round we broke above it. We're fighting with this area, and if we close above here and build a base above it, that's your uptrend there. That's your breakout. And similar to the total 2, the Ethereum is working on a new pump signal already. We've got the cross of the conversion baseline over here. This is the last thing we want to see. We want to see the actual cross. You don't want to see, at the moment we've got the two lines, the blue here and the red here, that are basically meeting at the same place. You see and get a positive cross close on a 4-hourly. That's a pump signal, and to me, if we get that, I think that has enough power to break this resistance. And so if that's the case, we'll take ourselves back to a daily, and we'll think about where the next resistance is going to be. And personally, if you just think about the horizontals, we're looking for 3,550 as the next area of resistance. This is already closed yesterday above the Bollinger Band, so it actually looks quite good. So we've started a new candle body above all moving averages on the daily. If you compare that to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is not like that at all. This is Bitcoin's 4-hourly. There's your 200 simple moving average rejection, death cross retest, and so far we're only just battling with a 20 moving average. Like I say, compare the two. We'll take it to a daily. If you compare the two, we're pretty much looking at a strong Ethereum compared to a consolidating Bitcoin. That's pretty interesting, I have to say, because it's not what I expected, given the fact that altcoins have been significantly weaker than Bitcoin for a prolonged period of time. And now, obviously, a lot of altcoins have retraced 40, some 60 or more % from their highs, their most recent local highs. And now we might be looking at a bit of a change of direction here. This is looking to me like a breakout, and I would not at all be surprised to see altcoins rallying into next week. So the only problem with all of this is that Bitcoin does still dominate the market, and Bitcoin is being rejected from a 10 exponential on the daily, which is not a good look for it, to be honest with you. That's not a good look, and that looks like it wants to go further down. And I would imagine that the next level is going to be back down below the $60 zone, probably further back down towards $59,000. Now, this sort of behavior is not something we haven't seen before. We have seen this before. We saw it all the way back over here. So this is where Bitcoin peaked after a significant rally. And it peaked over here, and it consolidated about 35%. And during this period of consolidation, altcoins were rallying, well, hundreds of %. So it wasn't alt season, but there was a different setup on the dominance chart. We all remember this because this is where we made so much money. We had an enormous double top on the Bitcoin dominance chart, and there was your dominance decline. Sharp, fast, continuous, and steady, all the way from 73, almost 74, all the way down to 40. It was amazing. We were living the crypto dream. So at the moment, we're not really able to see, and I don't think we'll ever see this again, because the market just gets diluted with every new altcoin that comes out. Plus the tether and everything like this is always going to, this is going to be a constantly declining chart anyway. But this has been a serious rally, and as far as the rally is concerned, it could still be going on. We've seen pullbacks below moving averages on this before, only to get picked back up. We had a peak over here and a continuation down, and if you're going to base it on its own chart, we're closing below a 50 exponential moving average. We've got a horizontal here ever so slightly below us, literally more, you might as well call it now, 54.11%. The next area down below there is going to be a standard golden cross retest at 52 or 53 basically. These are small moves percentage wise, but when we're talking about volume and market cap, you know, it's a 2.5% move, but it's an enormous amount of money. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm not sure if I'm getting my words out properly. The market is bigger than it was ever before, but the percentages are smaller. So even though the pullbacks are smaller, it should equate to larger moves on altcoins individually, or at least, you know, the total market cap, total 2, total 3. And this has been driven by Ethereum. And if Ethereum looks like it wants to break out, which I think it does look like it wants to break out, to be honest with you, I think it does. And if Bitcoin can hold its trousers up above $60 or even $59,000, I think we might be looking for an alt run. I'm not going to call it an alt season, but I'm not going to call it an alt run or some altcoin moves. I don't know what to call it, because if I start saying the word alt season, people are going to jump on my back for better or for worse. Some people will be waiting for hundreds of %. Other people will be thinking that I'm absolutely wrong. So I'm not going to call it an alt season, but we're just going to talk about a move from altcoins in general. And again, none of this is confirmed because we are Sunday, and Sunday is a rubbish day to trade. And even though the S&P closed up positive, it closed after getting a rejection on a Bollinger Band. So traditional markets, stocks, for instance, indices, S&P basically, does look like it's just put in a lower high, and with that I would imagine it's going to start to put in a lower low at some point soon. So this is why I always talk about the overall trading environment. This is why I bored you to death at the beginning of the video. You know, trading an individual altcoin sometimes is completely insignificant, and the technicals that go into the trading that one particular altcoin completely redundant when the rest of the market wants to come down. Imagine all financial markets, everything. I just want you to picture everything as one giant massive machine. I want you to try and understand that that's kind of, in a way, what we're dealing with here. It starts off with Forex. So we've got dollar pairs, you know, Dixie, you know, which is a consolidated version of looking at dollar pairs. Everything's valued against a dollar, so this is why it's a relevant chart. So we've got Forex markets, then we've got stocks, major indices, and ETFs. And then from there you can think about Bitcoin, and then from Bitcoin you think about altcoins. And it's only when you look at that in a broad overview and go, what's the overall trading environment? Is it a good one? I would say at the moment it's not particularly good, no. But is there evidence to suggest that altcoins can rise, you know, from today into next week? There is, but what's the catch? Well, the catch is that they might not, because we're looking at rejection on indices like S&P, and we're also looking at a dollar that looks like it wants to rise a little further. So as much as altcoins, Ethereum and the total 2 are making the case for a breakout, all the other components of this giant financial machine look like they want to do the opposite. And so when you think about that, you have to think about that. You basically stand back and go, all right, so the risk to reward isn't particularly based on Ethereum and the total 2 and the total 3 in the dominance chart. The risk to reward, you have to factor in stocks, indices, Bitcoin, and Forex markets. So there's charts behind charts, you know, there's charts that are lurking in the shadows that tell a different story. But if we're going to spin it in a positive light, which obviously I'm going to have to try and do just so I can get some clicks, once you've clicked on the video, you get a dose of reality, which hopefully is more valuable than hopium. Yeah, there is evidence, like I said, for Ethereum to continue on and for altcoins to actually rise early portion of next week, if not starting from today. We've already started seeing that, obviously, with Ethereum. But if we get that, if we can get that conversion baseline cross on the Ichimoku cloud, it should give us enough power to break through that 4-hourly major resistance, which again, you compare it to what's going on with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin got rejected on its 4-hourly 200 exponential and 200 simple, and Ethereum is pushing its already. You know, you can't buy a resistance, but if we break above it and build a base, I think we go in for, go then, I'll say it, we're going to have an alt season, we'll have an alt season, come on, alt season on a Sunday, come on, click on the video. Yeah, I said it, but you know what I mean. Yeah, you know, this is a video based on evidence of a potential rise in altcoins value, counter to the rest of the market. So controversial, I know, but it's not. I'm not saying it to get subscribers, although those could be nice, and if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe already. I'm saying it because I am a trader. I make money out of these markets. I'm looking at this with my own eyes, and I'm toying up with the idea of buying some altcoins into next week, regardless of the rest of the market coming down. And if the rest of the market comes down, I think altcoins is probably going to be the one to buy. Now, altcoins is a sweeping statement. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm just going to buy an altcoin, you know, pin the tail on the altcoin. I'm not saying we're doing that. You've got to find the right altcoin with the right setup. You can't just buy them blindly. So it's the opposite of what I've been trying to say, where you find an altcoin with a good setup and it doesn't work out because the rest of the market says no. I'm not saying that because the overall vibe on altcoins is a breakout, you can buy any altcoin. I'm not saying that either. Find an altcoin with a good setup that's at support, with signals on it that suggests going up, with increased momentum, increased money flow, no bearish divergence, you know, all of the good stuff. Pump signals, maybe even trend signals on the Ichimoku cloud. You find an altcoin like that and you focus on that one, and then you use the rest of the market to your benefit. And if we pull back down on Bitcoin to $59,000 and your altcoin still maintains its positive bullish setup, then maybe that is the time to press buy on that altcoin. You don't buy it now because we're at a resistance. Bitcoin got a nasty rejection on its 200 simple moving average, as we can see on this 4-hourly. We might be looking at this for altcoins, and we don't want that. So you never buy a resistance, because if you did buy the resistance on the Bitcoin, we would be down 5% now. You would have been down 7% from its to its low. And I still think that Bitcoin has further to go. So look, I love altcoins. I'm going to buy altcoins. I think altcoins have a chance of a breakout here, but remember what I'm saying. You know, if you intend on trading altcoins, you have to recognize that we're pushing a resistance now. We don't yet have the pump signal. We're waiting for it. And if we get the opportunity to buy lower and we still maintain positive, bullish perspective on that particular chart that you're interested in, do it. Otherwise, sit back, watch and wait, because the rest of the markets all look like they want to come down anyway. So if you're more guarded and your risk tolerance is low, and I've got a low risk tolerance, trust me, I don't like sticking my neck out for my head to get chopped off, then that's a perfectly fine strategy. We've been talking about holding a large cash position anyway since around December, and we've been building that cash position since December, bit by bit by bit by bit, for the general consolidation in the markets, which again we can see now has really started to pick up pace. But all consolidations do come to an end at some point, and buying lower is the way to make money. You've got to buy low to sell high. Recognizing what Ethereum did over here as well on the weekly, is it did touch its 20 moving average on the weekly, which is normally a good place to buy for a long term anyway. This wasn't just Ethereum, there's a lot of other altcoins that did this on the weekly. Ethereum's usually a good way to look at the overall market because it shows at least some stability. And we're in favor of a continuous uptrend on Ethereum here. And if we manage to get pulled back down into these areas again, we'd be looking for an Ethereum price of around $2,900. So it's not all bad. Maybe the consolidation for altcoins is finished for now. But I don't think it's finished for altcoins. I mean, I don't think it's finished for Bitcoin, and I don't think it's finished for stocks. And so, yes, like the VeChain video I made where I was saying I want to buy a VeChain, I will buy a VeChain around just above the 3 cent zone because of X, Y, and Z. There's lots of altcoins that will offer those sort of setups too. And for me, yeah, I will buy where I say I'm going to buy, because I only make these videos because they're an addition of what I would do in the morning quietly on my own anyway. That's why I make these YouTube videos. I'm going to trade anyway. I might as well talk out loud rather than think it into myself. You know, that's what all these videos are about. They're just me talking my thoughts as I view the market in the morning to see if there's some potential to make some money. But all I'm trying to get across here is that there is an interesting setup. We have seen something similar before, like in 2021, for instance, where Bitcoin consolidated and altcoins rallied. So it's not unheard of. It's not the most likely thing. It's not unheard of. And if we zoom out and see the weekly for Ethereum, then yeah, a long-term perspective entry point has already been met, that 20 weekly moving average. And the daily and the 4-hourly don't look bad either. So there's enough evidence for me to make this video. I just wanted to put it out there that just because I'm saying that there is a chance doesn't mean that there's a guarantee. There's a contradiction in markets here. Altcoins say one thing and the rest of the market says another thing. So you have to factor that into what you're looking at here. Me personally, I will buy and trade breakouts. Definitely, I will also buy dips, provided we hold certain areas. And then for Ethereum, it's going to be 2,900. Right, that's enough. That is enough. If this video was in some way useful to you, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully, you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes I'm unable to articulate myself correctly. And if you want further information, join the Telegram, join the Discord, or if you want to take it one step further, join the Patreon. All the links in the description below. Other than that, hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.